put them in the rear view mirror and get on with it.
Absolutely. And again, that's a lesson which you learn with experience as your career kind of gets underway. And in terms of yourself, Freddie, how do you personally deal with that? Because I imagine at times it is frustrating. Every bowler gets frustrated when, especially when you think you're bowling well and the ball's coming out nicely, and yet the opposition batsman is taking you, to the cleaners around the park. How do you actually deal with, those failures at times and kind of deal with the way of expectations as well? How do you maintain that even keel in a cricketing capacity?
For me, I've been through many downs, quite a lot of downs. I'm speaking like I'm an old man and I've been playing for years, but I'm only 20 and I've only had one kind of season as a pro. But I've had a lot of downs, injuries, and I had the issues with the dreaded Yips beginning of last season.
Could you touch upon that in a bit more detail, if possible, Fred? Obviously, if you're comfortable with that, because it's something which another Northamptonshire spinner, Simon Kerrigan, actually went through quite famously in a test match. Do you know where that kind of originated from in the first place?
It's a strange one, really. Obviously, you don't want anyone to go through it. And I think for me, I think what may have caused it was a bit of a burnout, playing a bit too much cricket, because I went from playing a season here, then playing a season in Australia, and then coming back here. So I had no break at all. I think I had 2 weeks break before I flew out to Australia to do the Darren Lehman Academy. And I went out there, started well, felt good. And then we got a few months in and I just couldn't bowl. I think I remember my last game in Australia, I bowled one over, and I think I bowled one delivery that was legal. My first two balls, I think one went over the keeper's head. I think one went somewhere to 45 to fine leg. And then I kind of thought, oh God, started bowling the rest of the deliveries off one step and I just couldn't get it down the other end. I had to say to the captain, I can't bowl this. I've got to stop. And it was a terrible time for me, I think. At the time, I thought, oh, it's just a bad day. Like, I'll wake up and I'll go do it again. It'll be fine the next day. But I started to not be able to picture myself bowl, and I couldn't run in. I felt terrible. So I stopped playing cricket out there for a bit. I trained, but weirdly enough, I felt fine in the nets. I could do it all in the nets, but as soon as I got over the boundary and onto the pitch, I had no clue. And came back to England, thought, yeah, I'll be fine. I'll go cracking. It was my first season playing twos, so I said, yeah, I'm available. I'll play the first game. I think we played against Derbyshire, twos for Northants, and same again. I didn't know how to let go. It wasn't as bad, but I just started bowling a lot of full tosses, a lot of half trackers, and never really getting a ball anywhere near a good length. I probably made the mistake of playing a couple more 3-day games after that, rather than just going, I'll take a break. And then eventually I spoke to Graham White and Kevin Innes, my old academy coach. And I just said, I can't do this. I need a break because I was seeing cricket everywhere. I needed a break from it. So I took I think 3 to 4 weeks out of the game. I took about a week of nothing, no training, nothing. I didn't even watch cricket. I turned it all off, just kind of forgot about cricket. And then after that week, I said to my academy coach, I want to try bowling again. I went, and every morning for 3 weeks, I was in the indoor centre bowling off one step for about 2 hours, trying to learn how to bowl. It was like learning how to bowl again. It was tough, really tough, but we worked through it. We bowled more balls than I've ever bowled in 3 weeks. And I remember my first game, I came back and played for the academy side against Hunt's second team or something. My first ball, I ran up and it was a double bouncer. And I thought, oh no, we're not over it. And then suddenly it started getting better. I started getting fuller and fuller. And I thought, okay, I feel all right here. And then a week later, Graham White said, do you want to play in the second team T20 stuff? I said, I'd love to. I'm ready. I feel like I can do this. We'll just give it a go. I went out and I think I played against Gloucester in Bristol at their ground. And I bowled the best I bowled probably ever. And I came out, it was a day where 230 played 230, but I came off with 2 for not many, while everyone else was going at 10s and stuff like that. And I kind of thought maybe this is all gone, and then just kept playing each twos game, kept taking a few wickets, and then next thing you know, I was heading up to Durham and I made my debut. And it's just like that. I didn't know. I kind of thought, I was scared that I wasn't going to play at all that season, but I think it just all clicked at the right time. And luckily I had a very good season for me.
Well, you most certainly did. But that's a lot to deal with. As a young spinner, the yips is absolutely horrible. For those who don't know what it is, it's also known as performance anxiety. So that's probably why you weren't feeling it so much in the nets. It's all about when the bright lights are on you and you're expected to perform, and you just can't. It's all psychological. You physically cannot release the ball. There's a similar thing in darts, which is known as dartitis, which is where you'll have these professional darts players, and they have been throwing darts their entire life. All of a sudden, they can't even throw one. It is one of the most difficult things that you can go through in professional sport, because it's like a mental block, isn't it? Would you describe it in a similar way, actually, Freddie, as someone who's experienced that? How would you actually describe the feeling of the yips and the difficulties associated with it?
Yeah, I'd say it's a block. It's weird. It's a really weird feeling because you've spent so many years doing something, and then it's a bit like you've woken up one day and you've never done it. And for me, it was the thing I felt one of the hardest was actually running into bowl. I didn't know where my feet were going. I was stuttering. I was all over the place. And then when I got to the actual run up bit, I was in a terrible position. Arm was going nowhere. And then obviously you let go of the ball and it goes miles in one direction. You think, oh no. And obviously you only really focus on the outcome. But for me, it was the whole thing, the run up, the feel. For me, I'm a big cricketer when it comes to feel. As a spinner, I feel like I like to know. Sometimes I'll say I don't feel very good today when I'm bowling, but someone will say it's coming out lovely. But the way I feel it leave my fingers, the way the ball kind of zips out your hand, it's all a big feel kind of thing for me. And it was strange. Yeah, it is definitely a mental block. And I remember speaking a lot to Simon Kerrigan about it, because obviously he went through the same thing, and his was a lot harder than mine was. And obviously he's doing really well now. Teammate of mine doing fantastic, and he was great for me to have him there. And I also spoke to a lot of psychologists, and I also did hypnotherapy where I got hypnotized to see if that would help. That was a really strange experience. I don't remember the whole thing. Apparently I was in the room with him for an hour and 20, but it felt like I was in there for about 10 minutes. I think I might have been asleep or something.
Well, it's interesting you mentioned that, actually, because I did want to touch upon this. How did you actually deal with the road to, I suppose, recovery after that? Because it is a horrible thing to go through. And I remember Simon Kerrigan's really quite vividly. That was really, really difficult to watch, because up until that point for Lancs, he had been absolutely fantastic. He had more than earned that position in the England Test side. And then it came to the day, and he just looked like a completely different player. And you could just see there was something massively wrong, and he didn't play since. It's such a shame, and it's brilliant to see him back in county cricket and performing well for Northants. It's great to see him back after a couple of years away from the circuit. But Freddie, how did you come back from that? Because it's a tremendously difficult thing to go through at such a young age. And you mentioned the chats with Graham White. You mentioned the chats with Keggs. You mentioned hypnotherapy. I'm going to be honest, I wasn't expecting that, but each to their own. How did you put in those steps to get you back to bowling at the level that you know you're capable of?
Well, it's always been a dream of mine to be a professional cricketer, and I wasn't going to let a mental block or the yips end my cricket career at the age of 19 at the time. For me, the thing that kind of, obviously I went through that week where I couldn't even think about cricket because it was a tough time and I didn't even want to speak about it or anything. I just kind of turned everything off. But once I got through that, I looked at myself in the mirror and said, you're not letting, if your cricket career is going to end, it's going to be because you physically can't do it. Like you're broken, your body can't do it. But I've never had any issues mentally ever, and I wasn't going to let a mental block end my career at the age I was. So it was a big motivation time, and it was good. I was back home seeing my mum and dad, and they were really helpful with it. And it was tough for them to, obviously my dad didn't really know about it. He didn't understand much about it, but he was good because he said, like, we kind of worked as a team. My dad was like, we've got this, my mum as well. And I think for me, it was the kind of fire inside of me to still want to be a professional cricketer and do as well as I can, that kind of powered me through it. Obviously, speaking to psychologists and hypnotherapy, strange thing, but doing all these things and all these chats, I knew that once I got through this, I could keep going. I feel like speaking to Kegs, he was like, once you've got through it, you're through it, you know how to fix it. So I felt that all I would do is I've got to get through this, and I knew it was going to take a lot of effort, knew it was going to take a lot of cricket balls bowled, and I was just really motivated to do it, and I was just driven, really, really driven. I kind of got through that week of moping around and being upset about cricket, but after that, I said, when you see all your mates and stuff playing cricket, scoring runs, taking wickets, I was like, that should be me. I should be out there doing well. I want to get that contract at the end of the year. I want to be a professional cricketer. So I just said to myself, like, we can do this, Freddie. Like, let's go do it. And just worked my ass off to get out there and kind of get it right.
Well, I'll tell you what, Freddie, I've got an awful lot of respect for that, because it's a lot to go through as a young cricketer. But fingers crossed that period of your life now is done and it never returns, because the yips, you don't wish it upon anyone. Really, really difficult to watch. And yeah, goodness me, I'm very, very lucky that I haven't actually experienced that. I suppose I'll never be a professional cricketer, but, you know, even in village cricket, it'd be tremendously difficult to watch and obviously to go through as well. So hopefully that does not return, touch wood. And talking